Hello and welcome to Inspired Life podcast. In this episode, we're interviewing a very fascinating man. His name is Barefoot Brian, and we're going to learn about his inspiration to connect with nature and to become a renowned forager. So, welcome, Brian. Well, thank you for joining me today and talk about your wonderful, passionate life. Do you want to share a little bit about what you do?
But what I do? All right. Well, I am right now a foraging guide. I take people out and show them what's good to eat and the medicines of the forest, what you can use for healing and fermentation and eating healthy foods, eating these foods from the land, just connecting people to nature in essence is what I do.
Yeah, that sounds so interesting. And, what got you into this?
I feel like I could literally go through my whole childhood experience and I could have the long form or the short form.
Whatever you're
But,
inspired by, go. Love to hear.
well, I'll just let it flow. But I grew up in the city, disconnected from nature. I had like a little woodlot near me when I was really young and a vacant field, and to watch those get destroyed and become housing. Um, there's definitely a little pain there, but I always had the connection to nature. Always loved animals and nature, even though I wasn't always exposed to it. Thankfully, I used to go car camping with my dad once a year, and it was the thing I looked forward to the most. So that was nice. And then thankfully, my grandfather too, he got 65 acres of land near Bancroft, and I would spend most of my summers, high school summers, up there and do the odd weekend with him up there and just be in nature. And I loved it. And yeah, it obviously brought so much benefits to me. Though I feel at some point I got a little disconnected from it being in the city. So yeah, it wasn't until high school where I really started to reconnect again, and I just found myself after high school not knowing what I wanted to do and finding peace and joy and just getting out of the city. I would just bike out of the city and spend a whole day, a whole Saturday. I would just go bike out with no plans at all of where I'm going, just explore random side roads. And it felt so freeing. And that was kind of inspiring for me to find a college program. So I found the Outdoor Adventure Naturalist program at Algonquin College, which I don't think they offer anymore. Just crazy. But anyway, so this program like exposed me. I just saw it. I'm like, I'm taking this because it's what I want to learn. Like, exposed me to like canoeing and kayaking and a bunch of skills like that. A little bit of climbing, a little bit of it's like whitewater rafting, yeah, backpacking, snowshoeing, winter cross country skiing. So like some light adventure skill stuff, and then the naturalist side was kind of what turned me on to it. So we did birding and wildlife identification, wild edibles, plant identification, astronomy, geology. So exposed to it all. I loved it. I yeah, so I found that was my kind of doorway to where I am now in life. Uh, yeah, I ended up doing a co-op that summer through that college program with Free Spirit Tours, where I am currently still working with 11 years later, uh, doing canoeing, kayak shuttling, and guiding, and that was great. Uh, though definitely through the college program, I learned dandelions were edible. Just looking in the guidebook, that's basically where it all started. I had a I had an interest in primitive skills. Um, though also it being practical, I was like, well, wild edibles, you can at least, gather those too. And it really did change my world. So I basically, when I started learning plants, I just got a bunch of guidebooks and I just went out all the time and just started just identifying things and just foraging. So it was all just like self-taught at the beginning, just figuring it out, which worked. Definitely took a lot of dedicated hours. Had I known the ways to do it um, more efficiently, I could have done it faster, but the dedication was there and the passion was there. So, um, yeah, eventually I started doing workshops. People around me saw that like how passionate I was about wild edibles and nature, and I don't know. I mean, just several people just like, yeah, you should be teaching this stuff.
Really light up when when you say that it changed my life. Can you say more about like what is it like to be in nature? Like what inspired you to start spending more time?
Um, I'd say largely I just out of childhood traumas, I just didn't fit in. I was kind of like just kind of did my own thing. I just didn't understand why I didn't fit in, and I just found peace and enjoyment of just being in nature. So at the time, I didn't like kind of see it as that. It just was very natural for me to like gravitate towards being out in nature in the forest. Um, before I went into that college program, though, as I was getting out into nature, I did have the thought. I'm like, it's so nice to be out here. It's beautiful, but it's like looking at a wall of green. I thought so. Is like I don't know what I'm looking at here. It's nice to be out here, but I'd like to like have more of a connection to the landscape, to the plants here, and like learn them. So that's why I think that spark really got ignited when I went to the college program, and we just had our basic plant identification, and that just kind of opened up that whole world for me to understand that. So it was like looking at the wall of green, and all of a sudden you just start seeing things as you learn new plants start to stand out from that wall of green, and it was quite an amazing process to where at this point it's like, yeah, there's no more wall of green. There's a relationship with every individual plant out there.
I like how you said that there's a relationship. How you said that, we all go through difficult times. And you were really drawn even very young to go in nature because that was your sanctuary. It was a place of healing. What was it like when you were just drawn to go to nature? What was there?
I would say like I can't speak for everyone, but I do believe that we all have it in us. It's just, I mean, we're still just animals on this planet. We're still like our physiology hasn't changed over all these years. We've become so disconnected in just the last 100. So I think we all have that natural draw. Some more than others, I guess. But as a child, I just had such a fascination, mostly of just animals and insects, and so it was like I would be drawn to go to the field to look for grasshoppers and praying mantises and any kind of insects that would be there. I would just have a fascination that I always be gathering them up in little containers and taking them home and making a little like home for them there. And so that was kind of my fascination then as a kid. And of course, going camping, then you're at the lake and you're just like, or hiking even. We went hiking a little bit too, and just be like flipping over logs and rocks and looking for all the salamanders and catching frogs and turtles. And it was just like, I do recognize that was like my highlight, my bliss point of being a child. As I said, it was like every year, the one thing I looked forward to the most was going on that week camping trip.
Hmm. And when you looked forward to it, what I'm sensing is that it's a whole other world. Like I remember when I went scuba diving, and it's like, whoa, it's a completely different
Mm,
world down there. And so I'm feeling that same awe from you when you talk about finding different insects and different creatures and different landscapes. It's like, whoa, this is like there's some kind of a magic there.
absolutely, there is for sure. I mean, like, I don't think you need to be too aware to feel the difference of like being in the city and then driving out of the city into some natural space. There's definitely a big difference in that energy, even so. Yeah, like you're saying with the scuba diving, that's definitely a huge difference. Like to see that, to look at the water from above and then all of a sudden stick your face under it and see how much like life is there. It's amazing.
Absolutely. When you say there's a difference in energy between the city and more of a natural landscape, can you describe it in words? I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you describe like what is the difference in energy? Like what happens?
The city is so fast paced, and I know most people know this, right? The city is so fast paced, and you go out in the country, and it's a slower pace of lifestyle. Like so many people, if you're in the city, won't even be bothered to say hello, but you go into the country, and it's like people are so friendly and happy to greet you, and I think it's just from that being in nature and not having so much stimulation around.
hmm
So
Well, they
it's
they do prescribe if you have stress is to spend some time in nature.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm curious to know, when you're in this natural setting and doing the work that you do, discovering new plants and, are they edible? Their properties and how can you use them? And being in this natural setting, is there anything that you experienced beyond what you've already shared that was different, like something magical, something that was out of the ordinary? I'm just curious.
I think what comes to my mind right now is like the moment where I kind of first identified my own wild edible plant. That wasn't like obvious like a dandelion. I think it was actually high bush cranberry that I identified, and I was like, "Oh, these are edible berries." And just like eating them and just being like, "Whoa, like this plant is just growing here." It sparked something in me. It just blew my mind. I was like, this is just growing here, and I'm just picking it and eating it, and it's like almost seemed it didn't seem real. It was like this isn't growing in like some farm field or something, but it's just growing like on the side of this trail. So that like was such a moment of like amazement to me.
Wow. I could really feel through through you sharing how special that moment could be of it's growing on its own. It's expressing beauty and it's not yeah, it's not farmed. It's just a natural expression. I even don't have the words to explain this, but yeah, I feel
Yeah.
the magic. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I tend to
Oh,
forget that how magical it can be as I've been doing this for what 10, 11 years, something like that.
hmm
So the magic's still there. It's just discovering new things now.
Would you be able to sustain yourself from being in the forest? From 11 years of collecting knowledge on, um, identifying certain foods and what you can eat, because the animals have no problem finding what foods to eat, but
Of
we
course.
seem to. But I'm wondering, after 11 years, how well can you sustain yourself in the wild?
So yeah, we don't have that wildness like other animals do at this point. Like we've domesticated ourselves. Um, you would need to, I mean, like us living here in Ontario is an adaptation. Largely, we would be surviving from hunting, fishing. Um, yeah, like foraging's definitely not going to sustain you. I would say. I mean, like in the fall, you get like black walnuts, you get like some things with fats, but otherwise, like in the plant world, to get enough fats is definitely would be the issue here. We don't have avocados like in the tropics. We got like up here. Before it's tough to say because we've altered the landscape so much now. Like I would say before we changed so much, there would have been the American chestnut here. There's acorns are a big staple. So they would have been like good protein, fat sources. They're still around, um, but just not as much of an abundance. So yeah, it's you would need to supplement your foraging, I'd say, with like having fishing or hunting to get those fats. And so plants do have proteins, obviously not as much as animal foods, but yeah, I'd say fats would be the most difficult thing in terms of if you were to like truly want to sustain yourself. So like in the case of myself, I do eat a lot of wild food, but I'm also like mostly cooking it. Like let's say mushrooms, I can dehydrate a ton of mushrooms, dehydrate lots of greens, vegetables, whatever I'm finding. But then, to cook it, I'm using fats. I'm adding fats to those things to
Mhm.
make it an actual meal,
So fats are important. Yeah.
especially when you get a long, cold winter up here.
That's where the root vegetables come in handy, but again, that's not so wild, but it's growing it for ourselves.
Well, they are around. There's root vegetables. Like here traditionally we have evening primrose, which is a native species. They're quite abundant. Um, Burdock, I don't think was traditionally native to here, though it's definitely established now as a wild plant. Even right now, I have probably like 3 pounds of burdock root in my fridge from harvesting back in November. So
Well, okay.
uh, there's definitely some wild foods that do well for storing. Even apples. We got lots of wild apples around. If you get the right apples, I still have, I think, like 10 apples in my fridge in terms of
Hmm.
like storing things lasting through the winter.
Right. So you mentioned earlier that there's the identification, there's the harvesting, and then there's preparing. You mentioned, yeah, there's different preparations. What would be some of the preparations that you would make with the foods that you find?
So I mostly dehydrate. Once you've removed the water there, then it's good to keep, almost indefinitely. Though I'll do everything, depending on what I have. There's pickling things, there's fermenting. So depending what I'm doing, like let's say, for example, like a popular spring edible, the fiddleheads, you could freeze them, you could pickle them, you could ferment them. Haven't tried to dehydrate them. That would be I don't know. I haven't even thought to Google it, but sure you could maybe do that too. But yeah, depending what you're gathering, you might want to preserve it in a different way, as for
Mhm.
flavor and for storage.
And you also mentioned there's medicines. Like, what do you mean by medicines?
So, food and medicine, there's not really a defined line between the two. Though there's definitely plants that fall more on the category of medicine as opposed to nutritive. So, if we're going to gather, let's say St. John's wort, that's a pretty popular one. St. John's wort, you could eat it, um, but you wouldn't want to eat it like you would, say, nettles or some other type of green like that. That would be nutritive. Um, so in that case, you would go out and gather that, and you would prepare that for medicine, like dehydrate it for tea, or tincture it, or do an oil with it. Uh, so yeah, there's plants like that. Of course, then like there's other plants, tea plants that you can have for nutrition and for medicine. Like I would say, cedar or pine make a nice tea. There's a good amount of vitamin C in there, but then there's also the medicinal qualities there too.
Nice. Sometimes when I am at the grocery store and I see maybe a box of tea or in the produce section, the crazy amount of money that they're asking for when I could go in my backyard and find some of these herbs just on the side of the path, like you said. So I guess the we are very disconnected with nature. There's this one, yeah, I went into, it was a decorative store. It was home decor. And the woman had a plate and it had a mound of moss. It was pretty. And they were asking for like hundreds of dollars for this. And I just stood there looking at it and I'm there like, this is moss. This is in the forest. You could go for a walk in the forest and collect some moss and make your own artwork. Um, yeah, so when I see these things, it's like, wow, like we're the disconnection. And so what is your recommendation to help people reconnect with nature?
Just get out, just get out into nature. Go take a walk in the forest. Uh, it'll you just spend time out there. Is the simplest thing you can do. Spend time out there and be present in nature, and you will come to have such a different understanding of life. Really, it's
Hmm.
at its very basic. It's just that. I think like this bit of story that I've shared so far kind of shows you that it's just all I did was go out into nature, with curiosity, and then yeah, I just came to understand things so much differently.
Mhm. Now there's this movement where it's called forest bathing. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because people are very disconnected with nature, and there is a program for absolutely everything. What do you like? What's your opinion on that?
I haven't like yeah, it's interesting. It kind of blows my mind that there's like a program on that. Um, but yeah, if people are getting benefits from uh, joining these programs. And I mean, I see why. If you really are just living in the city, and you're just living such a busy lifestyle and you don't feel you have the time to get out into nature, it's like, great, I can take this program. It does this, reduces stress, this, and let's take it. And then they have an amazing experience. It's like, um, it kind of goes with what you're saying about the moss. It's like people can pay to do this experience, when they could just go out and do it for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's
So
a good way of looking at it. You can you can pay someone to help you or get it for you. or you can choose to do it on your own. And I also do acknowledge the group benefit as well of group participation. I think the
Hmm.
experience of the group allows one to go deeper into what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what else can you share about um this inspired life of being with nature and connecting and finding food and like is what else would you like to share?
Well, yeah, I mean, wild food, it's amazing. It's like there's so much to it. It's not just going out and eating food that's free. Uh, I would share actually too the other thing. My teacher I had, we did have a wild edibles course through my program, and my teacher, the way he talked about the plants, he's like, "Oh, this is so and so, isn't she beautiful?" And talked to them like they had like a real character, and it was like, and at the time, it's like I was open minded, but like at the same time, there's kind of like the little bit of that program. I kind of thought in my mind, like, oh, what a hippie. But at the same time, I was like, that's so like amazing that he can like have this relationship and feel this way, and you just talk about stuff and like kind of share like these spiritual sides. And me growing up didn't have like any um connection to spirituality, and I was largely atheist for a long time. So like, yeah, it was kind of fascinating. I'm like, that's like, I just thought like, yeah, he's a hippie, but I'm like, that's so cool that he can have that. It'd be cool to like kind of have that connection. And as I said, just being out in nature, I just being out in nature and me just foraging brought me to that place. It just brought me to such a deeper understanding of how everything works. And it did bring me to spirituality. So I found that was pretty amazing experience.
And when you say spirituality, can you just say a little bit more? What is that like? What does that mean to you?
Just knowing that there's there's more to life. There is like this connection that we're like, it does bring like this feeling of connection. When I say nature connection, maybe people don't even fully understand that, but yeah, nature, like we're all connected. I mean, scientifically proven at this point. So it really does bring you into an understanding and a feeling. You'll feel it, what it is to actually feel connected to the land, um, and connected to others.
Mm, yeah, feeling connected. That's definitely something that is important to me. Um, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking at different ways to feel connected with themselves and with others. And perhaps nature is that conduit to help people achieve that.
Absolutely, it's the
Mm.
cure for so much of all the mental health crisis we're having in this country is, I would say, nature is the cure. Get
I
out into
love,
nature and you'll understand things, and you'll figure it out.
I love that. Nature is the cure. Wow. I know that you're up to big things in terms of helping people get connected with nature. Would you like to share a little bit about what you're offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do like workshops throughout the season on different things. The spring salad forage is a popular one, and a lot of people are starting to hear about the benefits of mushrooms and getting really into mushroom foraging now. So that's always popular, which would be later in the summer and fall, the main season for that. Um, I'll do fermentation workshops and medicine making. And then just this year, I've been putting together what's called the Practical Foragers program. So it's going to be a group of 6 to 8 people, a nice small group where we're going to gather together every second Saturday through the season. And we're going to learn all of this stuff: how to identify plants, how to forage them, the best way to prepare them, uh, preserve them, and really connect deeply into nature. So then by the end of this program, you will know how to identify plants and mushrooms, and know how to preserve them, and how to cook them in delicious ways and make medicines. So,
Sounds
yeah,
absolutely amazing. And
excited.
how do people connect with you?
So you can find out more on my site, barefootbrian.ca. Or if you're doing the social media thing, I'm on there too. Barefoot Brian Natural Health on Facebook or Instagram. The real Barefoot Brian on Instagram.
Awesome. And are there conferences or shows that you're going to be participating in?
Yeah, there's Creamore Wellness Fair coming up. A bunch of different healing modalities. I'll be there, sharing what I have to share. I do make products as well, so I'll be offering those products and just promoting getting out into nature and foraging at
Awesome.
that. So I believe there's a Facebook group for that, Creamore Healers Collective, I believe it is. So I'll be at that. Otherwise, you'll find me around Blue Mountain area in the forest.
Awesome. Well, it's such a pleasure to have you today. And, everything that you shared is absolutely fascinating. And for me, the biggest takeaways is how nature is healing. It is the cure.
Mm,
It brings connection. It's a relationship. And there's so much magic. There's so much magic there. And food, an abundance of food.
mm. So much abundance.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you would like to say today to be complete?
Um, I'd say just a little wrap up is yeah, just get out into nature. If you are listening to my story here and you feel you're a stressed person, or you're feeling like any of these negative energies, just go out into the forest and sit there and be present and see what that offers you.
Yeah. In the stillness, allowing something new to arise.
That's right.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maurice.